Good morning, CLC. In this moment, at this time, I invite each and every one of you to just let the great wave that is the divine wash over you. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in cool, calming light. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath in, breathing in all the newness that this new year has to offer. And as you release this breath, allow your body to just relax in this moment. Let all doubts and tension, just set it aside for now. Any worries or regrets, we're going to let it go for the moment. And allow yourself to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose.
I choose.
I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept.
I accept.
Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release.
I release.
Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to everyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I am so very grateful for all the good in your lives. So very grateful.
At the Christmas Eve service. We had two Christmas Eve services. We had Christmas Eve morning and Christmas Eve Eve. Well, it's actually Christmas Day Eve, because if it was Christmas Eve Eve, it would have been the night before. Anyway, I was sitting over here with Brian, and I had said at the start of the service, please no applause. I said this is a service and not a show, and we want to have an emotional flow through the music and the talks and so on. And everybody was cool with that, which is unusual if you've been around creative life for much time. Usually you say that and it's like, you can't forbid me to do something. You'll get a standing ovation. You don't want, And so Brian's sitting there, and he's like, after we heard some of the tremendous music that night, and you can still watch it on Facebook and YouTube, he's like, I so want to applaud, and he's air applauding. And finally I turned to him, I said, stop it. Just stop it, because it was so nice. Anyway, I welcome you here on New Year's Eve and Watch Night and a turn of the year. And it's a metaphor. Jeffrey and I were talking about this just before the service. Well, a new year begins. It's a metaphor. It's an astronomical thing. It's a time-related thing, and the calendar changes. In the 18th century, I think it was, there was a week or two that got dropped out of the calendar altogether, so that everything could catch up with itself and align with the movement of stars and planets and all that sort of thing, So it's a metaphor. But it's a useful metaphor, so we'll take it as that, and we'll see what we can do with it today. So what I wanted to tell you first off was that you've got about 12 and a half hours to get everything done. And we need to ask ourselves, is being here doing this a useful occupation, a useful dedication of our time, when we could be painting the garage, okay? When we could be quitting all our bad habits, when we could be going to the gym, right? There's so much, there's so much, but I bet they're full. The churches aren't, because I went past several of them today, and the parking lots didn't look anything at all like the last few weeks, So where are people today, and what are we doing? And this is part of our obsession, is to get everything done. And then, tomorrow, begins a whole new series of resolutions. and life-changing choices that we're going to make that we're probably going to forget about pretty quickly.
Yep.
We're going to abandon. And even the ones that we really devote ourselves to, we're going to look up and it's April. And we're like, how far along am I? So I want to propose an alternative here. I want to propose something other than a quick fix. I want to propose delayed gratification, deferred gratification in terms of the achievement of things. You and I have been taught to be goal-oriented since day one, and that's not a bad thing, but it's an incomplete thing. Goals are not everything. Because you achieve a goal. I was reading a guy online this week who I agreed with, and he said much of this. I'd already thought of it, of course, but, being who I am. But I mean, these ideas occur to multiple people, and now they're occurring to you. And much of what I'm going to say today, I'm sure you've already thought of, but I still need to say it. So you set a goal, and you achieve the goal, and then the goal's finished. And what do you immediately get? You get another goal. Right? And then you work on that, and the process just continues ad infinitum. When I was a little kid, they said, eat everything on your plate. Finish your meal. And I dutifully did, or I did my best. And but no sooner had I finished, a few hours later, I got another plate. And now you got to finish this one. And they said, when you finish your homework, you can watch TV. I'm a relic, I realize. Now you can FaceTime your friends or something, but when you finish your homework, you can, and no sooner had I finished my homework than the next day I got more. And then I finished, right? And now, then you go to work. And they say when you finish your work, you can go home. Then what happens? They expect you to come back. And there's more work. And it never ends. And you go through, maybe you work for the same place your whole life or whatever, but you go through your work life and you retire, and no sooner have you retired, and you're on a beach someplace, I hope, then somebody else is sitting at that desk, and there's still work to do. And so it goes, and so we're like, when do we win? When do we succeed? When is it ever over? And that's the thing. It never is. It never is. And people say, well, one day I'll leave this body and I won't be on this planet and I'll be sitting at the feet of God with angels. And no, you won't. You'll be working and eating and doing things in a different space. And I can't tell you what that looks like, but I absolutely believe that we get more stuff to do. A higher level of stuff, better perks, I guess. But it's still... Because why? Why spend this lifetime learning everything that we have, if not to apply it in some way? So the person that I was reading, several people actually brought this up. It's about, they call it a system. I prefer to think of it as a process. It's about life is process. Life is process-oriented. Metaphysics is process-oriented. It's not about attaining this or that or the other thing. It's about learning who you are, discovering who you are. Okay? Because we have within us the divine nature. And we have within us a lot of other stuff too. And the other stuff can get in the way of not exactly the divine nature, but it can get in the way of our experience of the divine nature, which fundamentally works out to be the same thing. Because one of the things that we know from metaphysics is that it's our experience of things that makes the difference to us rather than the things per se. Things exist not in absolute form, but in relative form. We have the absolute within us, but often we crowd it out for the relative interpretation of things. We decide how things should be. We decide how things should be, and then we announce to other people how things should be. And then you get a group of people together who decide how things should be, and that becomes tradition. But our hearts are in spontaneity, in the direct experience of the moment, of the new thing. And things are only new to us when we agree they are. Things are only astonishing to us when we agree they are, you see. And so we've got to, this is why you heard all this messaging last week and the weeks before out of this place, Creative Life, about the child within. Christmas Eve was lousy with this. Christmas Eve was loaded with every song, every reading, every talk, the child within, the child within. And you're like, for crying out loud, what is this? What is this saying? Because the child within experiences things in innocence, trust, and wonder. The grown-up within is a fine thing too, but the grown-up within tends to be jaded. Right? Oh, we've seen this before. Just like, have you fallen into the thing, well, it's another holiday season. How much is this going to cost? You know? We got to wheel the whole thing out and decorate the place. I mean, look at this beautiful place. Look at this beautiful tree, which probably next Sunday won't be up here, but I don't know that we've acknowledged this. But Denise and Melty and Sarah put up this beautiful tree. Give a hand to the tree, would you? And to them. This beautiful tree. And for them, it was a labor of love, you know? But there's a part of us that looks at this, oh, the tree, got to trim the tree. Now you got to, that was the fun part. Now you got to take it down, vacuum up under it and all of this. I remember one time upstairs in the other building, this is an aside for those of you who count the number of asides I give in a talk. We had some kind of an event. It was thought to be a good idea to bring in a couple of bales of hay for the event. The bales of hay went. It's wall-to-wall carpeting upstairs in that room. The bales of hay went. Somebody else thought it'd be a good idea. Let's vacuum them up. Well, the hay caught fire, and the vacuum caught fire, and it was really quite. And in fact, I think no, we've had new carpeting put in there since. But there was a time when you could. It was part of the tour, and this is where the hay sat. So you live and learn, you know. But part of us gets real jaded about stuff, and it's the holidays, and now it's January, and part of us gets sad about that. There's an actual thing called post-holiday syndrome, where people are like, oh, man, part of that, maybe most of that, has to do with memory, and it also has to do with the proximity of loved ones. You know, like they say, the captains and the kings depart, the proximity of loved ones. Now the holidays are over. Everybody's gone home. And now here I sit. Furthermore, in this hemisphere, it's winter, you know. And so it's maybe cold and unpleasant and all of that. This is all of the stuff that's going on in our minds that can crowd out the divine idea. But what I don't want us to forget is that just last week, we were talking about the birth of the Christ idea within. And don't let that be a greeting card sentiment that just goes in a drawer and we forget about it until next Christmas when we bring it back out and have it be all that way. Because the longing that we have for peace on earth and goodwill toward all is real, and it's the absolute tapping us on the shoulder. It's the absolute calling out to us and saying, I'm still here. Hello. Still here. Still happening. Still being born. Still being born in you. The divine nature is still within you, even though you have all of these other opinions and things going on. So I made a list of several ideas for you. I have for you. I may condense the list somewhat, or I may expand it. You just don't know, because I realize we're on the clock to the end of the year, but still. Remember the birth of the divine idea within the self, like I just said. Remember this. Remember that the birth of the divine idea in you is the birth of the experience of the divine idea within you. And remember how that felt. And if it didn't happen on Christmas Eve or at some appropriate time, it happened at an inappropriate time. And this is often, as Ernest Holmes points out in his writings on mysticism in this book we've been working through, this is often how the divine idea occurs. It's disturbing to you. It doesn't occur when you're good and ready for it, when you've lit the incense and are sitting in the lotus position and have your third eye open and all the rest of that. It occurs to you while you're, on the on-ramp to the freeway. And I don't mean that it's like a cognitive event or something that causes accidents or something like this. But all of a sudden, something clicks into place and you get it. And you get it. And you remember, those of you watching online who've been doing this a while, those of you in the room, you remember when you got it, don't you? Because I remember when I did, It was a Tuesday. I don't remember that detail, but I remember when, having heard and read for some period of time about there's one life, and that life is spirit, and that life is all the life there is. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. And my little logical self is up here saying, yeah, that makes sense. Because otherwise, and you go into how anything less than that really isn't possible. But after thinking about it with my little logical self for some period of time, all of a sudden my soul got it. And it was like, yeah. And a whole new world opened up. A whole new world opened up, and a whole bunch of stuff came into place that hadn't been there. And more importantly for me at the time was a whole bunch of stuff that didn't need to be there exited. investment in judgments, ego, attachments, just all kinds of stuff. And it continues to happen. And it continues to happen. It's a house cleaning that goes on, with this acceptance of the divine idea. So remember the ubiquity of that presence. This point number 2 is, some of the worst advice you can ever give anybody is try not to worry. Okay, isn't that helpful? Try not to worry. Just relax. Just try not to worry. Well, it's not about giving the advice to other people. It's about taking the advice ourselves. What can I do in place of worry? To this, I'll give you Emmett Fox, and they'll find him for you online with absolutely no heads up from me, but they're good at this. Okay? He wrote a little booklet. We have it in the bookstore. It costs, I don't know, like a nickel, maybe a quarter. It's a good investment. Tiny little saddle-stitched booklet, 10 pages, called The Golden Key. The Golden Key. Have you heard of The Golden Key? A lot of people clutch onto that golden key as if their lives depended on it, because in at least a metaphorical sense, they often do. The golden key is, instead of your problems, think about God. This actually works. It sounds blithe, it sounds glib, it sounds glide, it sounds blib, it sounds whatever. No, this actually works. This actually works to think about God. Think about the divine nature in place of your worries. And this is a choice each one of us can make in the moment. In the moment, right then. We say, well, you don't know my worries, because my worries are superior to anybody else's worries. On the face of it, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. And still it works to think about the divine nature. How do you do that? Well, here's a suggestion. Those words I gave you a moment ago, and you're going to hear them a lot coming up in the basic series in January. There is one life. That life is my source, or whatever you want to call it, as long as it bespeaks the one life. There is one life. That life is my source. That life is all the life there is. That life is expressing through me right now. Great way to think about your higher power. The higher power for everybody that you're having an experience of, because that's the only experience you can control. I know you know this next part, and we've talked about it many times, but it's just not possible to change other people. Other people will change anyway, because we're changing anyway. And yes, we can model things and be an example to people and so on, but if we're doing that in the expectation that they're, going to see us and decide they like what they see and change as a result, we're kidding ourselves. Because we don't do that. We don't do that when somebody else appears on the scene. We're stubborn that way. We stick with our own opinions. I know these opinions have never worked for me, but I'm sticking with them because maybe because maybe this time they will. They're uncomfortable, but they're very familiar, and we prize familiarity over comfort. So we're the ones who change our mind, which is why we sing songs like Let There Be Peace on Earth and Let It Begin With Me, rather than deciding who else it ought to begin with. Begins with the self, always. So we have the power to do this, to change our own minds, to go to that place and say that I know that right now through me, divine wisdom is operating beautifully, perfectly. Then as we know this, we know as well that the one life is within every being. There's one life, that life is spirit, that life is everybody's life. So while we're leaving them alone, we're not messing with them, we're not trying to get other people to change their minds about stuff, we are acknowledging that the same divine principle exists within them, no matter how much they do or do not know about it. And it's not our business to determine that. It's not our business to decide the degree of ignorance that other people are in. Well, sometimes we do that, don't we? Right? So everybody can have an epiphany. Everybody can have a spiritual awakening. And they are. And they're having it in their own way, and they're having it in their own style, and they're having it in their own place. I was reading an item in the news about how at the turn of the year a lot of people changed religions. Did you know that? Don't any of you consider it, but a lot of people say, well, this just isn't working for me anymore, so I'm going to take off and go into something else. Maybe something exotic from the other side of wherever I happen to be on the planet, And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And at the same time, what we find is that as we pursue the traditions and lore and rituals of some other spiritual practice, it all leads us to the same place, which is our issues. and what it is we put between ourselves and the direct, unmediated experience of the divine in our lives. So you can kill time, learn a new language, meet some interesting people, learn some new customs, maybe even eat some new food, but all it's going to do in terms of spiritual workshop is conduct you to the same place where you basically are right now. So why not just pause a moment and affirm that in your understanding of this higher power. Look, if you think you're going to find a greater understanding of the higher power in some other spiritual practice, you're probably not, because nobody understands the higher power. It's not meant to be understood. That's why it's a higher power. Okay? It's the infinite mind. We call it infinite mind, and then we expect to understand exactly how it works. You know, instead, what do we observe? The process which runs like the river past our door, the process. Then there's this, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Whatever kind of spiritual practice you have, people get impatient with their spiritual practice. They say it's not delivering the goods. How do they know this? They look at their neighbor. They say, now Harry got a new car this week, and he's an atheist. That just isn't right. I have spiritual practice. I meditate, and I treat, and I read improving literature and all the rest of this. And Harry got a new car. And the bottom keeps falling out of mine. And that just isn't, well, nobody has an explanation for this. You want to know how Harry got a new car? Go ask Harry. But really what it comes down to is your good is right around the corner. If it's not in your driveway, it's right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? If it's not present within view, it's coming into view. So often we see this to be the case, and we give up. Nah, life is unfair and miserable. I'm going to go back to thinking that. Well, and then there's a story that says there's like a workshop, like Santa's workshop or whatever, where every claim that's placed on the universe, your good begins to be assembled. Then it's taken down off the shelf. Then it's boxed up. Then it's labeled with your name. But anywhere along the way you can cancel the order, and how you do it is by fear. Okay? And we say to ourselves, this is too good for me. It can't be this easy. This can't possibly happen. They take the label off. They take it out of the box. They put it back on the shelf. You know? That's a little silly, but is it? But is it? Keep doing what you're doing. You're getting there. You're getting there. And if you're not doing anything of a spiritual nature, I want to shame you and make you wrong for that. Okay? No, I just want to say that it makes people who teach this stuff bury their heads in their hands. Because all we're asking you to do is set a tiny little fraction of your time aside every day to meditate and to pray affirmatively. If you will do that. I don't have, the teachers here do not have, your answers do not have a shortcut, really. We don't pull rabbits out of hats and stuff. Because we all have to do our work. You know, we can't run on fumes. We can't decide 10 weeks ago or something that God is all there is and then not revisit that idea in the meantime and expect it to keep up with us and expect to be, enlivened and empowered to do what we do. So you've got to go to the source. Do this every day. Create your own rituals around it. Read your own passages. Some of you are reading. And if you need some help with this, one place you can find this is on our Facebook page, twice a day, every single day. Morning, Reverend Lisa Ryan. Evening, Reverend David Dewhurst. Reading something to you and then discussing what it means to them. And you can build from there. You can build a habit of looking in on these people. It will not cost you a nickel to do this. And you might like the books they're reading. He's reading out of the magazine. She's reading out of a book we have over here. And you might like what they have, and you read along with them, or you read something else, but now you have a spiritual practice. How is reading a spiritual practice? And I'm meaning reading something that is talking about elevated ideas of oneness and so on. It rescripts your thinking. It interrupts your patterns. It disrupts your fear and your worry and your distress about things, you know. It conducts you to this idea. And eventually, and I say eventually, could happen really, really soon, could happen immediately for that matter, the idea clicks into place. Wait, I get it now. There's one life, and that life is spirit, and that life is, whoa, it's the life I'm having. Right here, it's me. Wow, how about that? And everything changes. Finally this. Everything changes, and your behavior changes. Your behavior changes toward other people. And people are like, wow, you're a lot nicer than you used to be. You know? You're a lot more patient. You're a lot more understanding and kind than you used to be. What happened to you? Are you in some kind of cult or something? And you're like, well, I've discovered that I live in the midst of spiritual life, that all life is spirit expressing. I realize there's an absolute, a higher power that I can go to with my worries and my fears and my questions. You know, I realize that other people are basically good. Other people, they can be confused, they can even sometimes be dangerous, but they're basically good. Why? Because they're created by the same source as I am, you know? And I realize I can trust myself. Now, see, I can trust my own thinking because my thinking's not ego-driven and competitive. It's more collaborative. It's more collaborative. It's like, how can you and I work together to make this thing happen instead of constantly looking over our shoulders suspiciously to see if somebody else is catching up with us, you know? So we become healthier people. And this then moves through our bodies, and science is constantly proving this in small ways, in experimental methods and stuff, that your metabolism changes. You digest your food better. Your blood circulates better. You sleep better at night. Everybody wants to sell you a product or service or drug or something about this, but the best thing you can do, not to say all of that isn't helpful, the best thing you can do is have peace within your soul, knowing that everything is somehow coming together for good in the way. And so you're healthier. And when you're healthier that way, that makes you work better, doesn't it? And so if you're concerned about creativity and productivity, because in this coming year you want to get certain things done and launch certain ideas into place, well, a well-fed, well-slept, healthier, pain-free you is going to be more adept at doing that than not, right? Then there's relationships, and now we get along better with people because we let bygones be bygones and we don't nurse grudges and hold resentments and all the rest of this because everybody's doing the best they can, and they're not the key to our good. Neither are we running around trying to please everybody and have everybody agree with us. And so we're healthier people in that way. And you know, you see where this is going, don't you? Pretty soon you look around and it's like, man, this is like heaven almost. This is like great. I have this wonderful life with these cool people in it. I got stuff to do. And sure, there's setbacks and bumps in the road. And sure, there are disappointments. And you know what else? At the end of it all, there's death. There's death. And we look that right in the face and say, where is thy sting? Where is thy sting? Because we know that when we turn that corner and move out of sight, then there's something else that awaits us. And so phobias and neuroses are lifted up and are gone, and life is just so much easier for us, and we can do this any time at all, and it's New Year's Eve. And so why not now? And why not with our African-American brethren and sistren? Is that a word, sistren? We look at the watch night, keep the high watch for the emancipation, for the call to come. And the call, you know where the call comes, right? In here. It's in here. It's all of a sudden you're free. You're my beloved child in whom I am well represented. You have always been free, but now you know it. Now you know it, and the gates are open. So let's know together. One life, one power, one presence, pure spirit right here, happening right now on this amazing day where a calendar page turns. I just accept within myself that where I am right now is a place of limitless possibility. The divine idea incarnated in me is mighty to heal, mighty to strengthen, mighty to unfold. It knows what it's doing, and I know what it's doing to the best of my understanding. And I follow where it leads. I listen to intuition, which is the whispering in my ear of the big divine idea of oneness of everything. And I follow my hunches, which are the psychic indications within me of what best I ought to do next. And I listen to my intellect. And within myself, I listen to my emotions. And they are really my rule and guide. Because how do I feel about my life indicates how successful I am, indicates how at peace I am, how well my process is working. I am devoted to my spiritual process. I commit to spending time with it. I commit to listening to my feelings even when they're uncomfortable. And through all of this, I commit to building a whole new world view for all living beings everywhere. Thank you, infinite presence of life, Mother, Father, God, that which thought all this up in the first place, for entrusting each of us with your divine idea within ourselves. In gratitude and in peace, I let it be so, and so it is.
So as our usher makes her way to the back, just remember that, we're a place that offers you. What we teach you is we teach you how to learn and not what to learn. If you love what we do, you like what we do, one way that you can contribute to the world in that way with our mission in the world is to actually donate to us. And we appreciate everything that you do with your time, with your money, and with your efforts. So just know with me as we come up and we say, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
All right. And after that, I'm going to send you out into what's left of 2023, right? So I have a quick exercise for you, and then we'll do a quick treatment as well. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. And I want you to visualize a door or a doorway. You don't have to have a door in the doorway. It can be an open door, whatever. And it can be outside if you want. I just want you to have a doorway. Now I want you to visualize a little table on this side of the door. The side you're on currently.
Oh, okay.
The side that you're on currently. I want you to visualize a little table beside the door. That's okay. Now on that table is a bowl. And that bowl can be as big or as small as you want it to be. What that bowl is for is anything that you are ready to leave in 2023. Anything. Is it a habit that you're ready to give up? A job you're ready to give up? A personal trait of yours that you're ready to give? Anything that you are ready to leave in 2023. Now I want you to hold it for just a minute, whatever it is, or however how much it is, and bless it. Thank it for what it has given you, or what it has helped you release. As you are ready to step through that door, place it gently in the bowl. On the other side of the door is a similar table with a similar bowl. And this bowl is filled with whatever it is that you would like to take into 2024. Some suggestions would be a cup of kindness, an awareness of your divine nature, a feeling of peace, a warm blanket, more love. Whatever it is. And it is your bowl, so you can take as much out of that bowl as you need. And that bowl will be there anytime you need, so you're welcome to come back and pick something new at any time in 2024. because that bowl's going to naturally fill up. It's connected to an inexhaustible source of the good of you. So know with me now that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. That life is my life now. I am that presence. That power, that love flows through me, just as I know that it does each and every one of you. As we walk into this new year, as we leave behind that which no longer serves us and take up the new cloth, our needs are quickly and easily met. Our love is easily returned. Our work is easy and joyful. Our relationships are filling and gentle. And our world knows a peace that is better than anything it's known before. We are the children of God. We are the divine in physical form. All things are possible. Just know who you are, as I know who you are. Brilliant lights, divine sparks, love in motion. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being. I am grateful for a place like this where we come together to learn who we are. I'm grateful for a teaching that teaches me who I am and lets me hold that candle up to light others' paths. Though I cannot walk your path for you, I can walk beside you and will. I am grateful for our practitioners. I am grateful for our musicians. I am grateful for our ministers. I am grateful for each and every one of you. I am grateful for the technology that allows us to send this out into the ether. And I am grateful because it feels good to be grateful. And I release my word into law with love, knowing that it is done. And so it is.
Well, Clarence got his wings, and so have you, and so have I. Let's say it, let's say it together now. What is it we say here? Something wonderful. I've started to go into the divine love. Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind. I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I
trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
So it is.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.